In the clear, cold skies high above the Third Reich, a new kind of war was being waged. It was a war fought by formations of American B-17 flying fortresses, pushing deep into hostile territory in broad daylight. This strategy was considered suicidal by their British allies, but the Americans possessed a secret weapon, a device so revolutionary it was treated with a reverence bordering on the divine. It was a piece of technology so top secret that the bombardiers who operated it swore an oath to die protecting it. On every bomber, this device was escorted to the aircraft under armed guard, hidden beneath a canvas shroud. Before any mission, it was fitted with a small thermite charge, designed to melt it into an unrecognizable lump of metal in the event of a crash. This was the Norden M-series bombsight, and it was America's ace in the hole, the key to a new doctrine of precision daylight bombing. It was said that from 20,000 feet, a skilled bombardier could use it to drop a bomb into a pickle barrel. For German intelligence, capturing one of these fabled devices intact became an obsession. The myth of the Norden was as potent a weapon as the bombs it aimed. For years, every recovered wreck yielded only fused, slagged metal where the bombsight should have been. But as the air war intensified, the inevitable happened. In 1943, a damaged B-17 was forced to make a belly landing in a field in Holland. The crew was captured before they could activate the self-destruct charge. When German technical intelligence officers arrived at the wreck, they carefully removed their prize. It was finally in their hands, the Clockwork Brain that was systematically targeting their war industry. The bombsight was rushed to Berlin and presented to a team of Germany's most brilliant optical and mechanical engineers, including specialists from the legendary Carl Zeiss Company. They were the undisputed masters of optics and precision mechanics. They expected to find a clever, perhaps advanced, but ultimately conventional bombsight. They placed the 50-pound device on a workbench, removed its dull black casing, and fell silent. What they saw inside was not a weapon. It was a mechanical universe. It was a bewildering, three-dimensional labyrinth of over 2,000 individual parts. There were gyroscopes spinning on jewel-like bearings, intricate gear trains, electrical servo motors, complex lens assemblies, telescopic sights, and a maze of levers and dials. It was less like a military weapon and more like a combination of a Swiss chronograph, a telescope, and an astrolabe, all compressed into a space the size of a briefcase. The German engineers, men who took immense pride in their own nation's engineering prowess, were profoundly humbled. They had never seen anything like it. They began the painstaking process of reverse engineering. The true genius and the madness of the Norden became clear. It was not merely a sight for aiming. It was an analog computer. A bombardier would input the aircraft's altitude, airspeed, and the bomb's ballistic data. The sight's internal gyroscopes would create a stable platform, independent of the aircraft's movement, always oriented to the true vertical. The bombardier would then use the telescope to track the target. As he did, the sight's mechanical calculators would continuously compute the complex trigonometric problem of the bomb's trajectory, factoring in the plane's speed and the effect of wind drift. But here was the Norden's most revolutionary secret, the feature that truly stunned the German team. For the final 30 seconds of the bomb run, the Norden was not just a computer. It was a pilot, connected directly to the bomber's autopilot. The bombardier would make his final adjustments, and then the Norden itself would fly the B-17, making minute-precise corrections to the plane's heading that no human pilot could match. The pilot and co-pilot would relinquish control, their hands off the yokes, as this mechanical brain guided their 10-ton bomber to the perfect release point. The German engineers understood the principle. It was breathtakingly ambitious, but as they looked at the components, they realized that the true secret of the Norden was not its design, but its construction. This is where the story shifts from reverse engineering to industrial espionage, because the Germans already had a head start. A German spy, Hermann W. Lang, an inspector at the Carl L. Norden Company, had sold a complete set of blueprints to the Abwehr in 1938 for a mere $3,000. The Germans had possessed the plans for years before they ever captured a physical device. And yet, they had never been able to build one. The captured device on their workbench showed them why. The manufacturing precision was unattainable. The blueprints called for tolerances so fine that they bordered on the impossible for mass production. The gyroscopes had to spin at 7,800 revolutions per minute with near-perfect stability. The bearings they rested on had to be flawless. The gears had to mesh without even a whisper of backlash. The Germans, even with their skilled workforce, realized that producing such a device at scale, under the pressure of wartime bombing and resource shortages, was a fantasy. Each Norden was a hand-built masterpiece, and America was somehow managing to produce them by the tens of thousands. The complexity was a strategic flaw. The German engineers, with their philosophy of practical, combat-effective design, Fronttrief, looked at the Norden and saw a maintenance nightmare. It was delicate, required constant calibration, and could be rendered useless by a single hard landing. Their own primary bombsight, the Luftwaffe 7, was a far simpler, purely mechanical device. It was less accurate, but it was rugged, reliable, and could be produced cheaply and quickly. The German conclusion was that the Norden was an engineering marvel but a strategic absurdity, a watchmaker's solution to a blacksmith's problem. This led to the final, crucial realization. The Germans couldn't copy the Norden because they couldn't copy the entire military-industrial system that created it. The Norden was the physical manifestation of the American doctrine of strategic bombing. It only made sense if you were building thousands of four-engine heavy bombers, training an army of specialist bombardiers for months, and were willing to accept that the device required a long, straight, level, and unevasive bomb run, a tactic that made the bombers dangerously predictable and vulnerable to flak and fighters. The Luftwaffe had no such doctrine. Their air force was built around tactical support for the army, dive bombers like the Stuka and medium bombers that used simpler techniques. They had no need for a high-altitude precision bombsight because they didn't have a fleet of aircraft or a strategic plan that could use it. In the end, the Germans did produce a simplified version based on their analysis, but they never deployed it widely. They had looked inside the secret weapon and found not a piece of technology they could steal, but a reflection of a different way of war. The Norden's true secret was not hidden in its gears or gyroscopes. It was hidden in the vast, untouched factories of Detroit, the enormous training schools in the Texas desert, and the strategic minds at USAF headquarters who were willing to bet everything on a single, incredibly complex, and fantastically expensive technological solution. The weapon remained uncopyable, not because its design was a mystery, but because its very soul belonged to an industrial and military philosophy that was completely alien to its captors.